Islam, a government's modern failure. Islam has been sold to the world as perfection, the final revelation, the final prophet, the final system, a religion that insists it is not just belief but blueprint, not just prayer but politics, not just a way to the hereafter but a manual for governing here on earth. 14 centuries of marketing have hammered home the slogan, Islam is the answer. But if Islam is the answer, then why does every society that has tried to build its walls out of that answer look like a crumbling ruin? Why do Islamic governments in the modern era bleed poverty, corruption, repression, and fear? Why do women suffer, minorities flee, youth rot, economies collapse, and leaders steal in God's name? This is not a critique of faith itself. People will always pray. People will always seek comfort in God's prophets and holy books. This is about power. This is about Islam, a system of governance in the modern age. And the verdict is clear. It has failed. Let's start with the poster child, Iran. In 1979, the revolution overthrew a Western-backed dictator, the Shah. The people had dreams of dignity, self-determination, justice. And what replaced him? The Islamic Republic, a clerical mafia in robes. They promised Islamic justice. Instead, they delivered a theocracy where women were forced into veils, dissenters were hanged from cranes, and an entire generation was thrown into an endless war with Iraq to defend the mullah's authority. 40 years later, what does Iran look like? A youth unemployment crisis, a currency worth less than toilet paper, executions for protesters, entire swathes of the population, especially women, openly declaring they hate the very system that rules them. If Islam was the answer, Iran is the proof sheet. The ink has faded, the page is blood-stained, and the book is closing. Next stop, Saudi Arabia, the birthplace of Islam, the holy land of Mecca and Medina, and also, conveniently, the land where Wahhabism metastasized into a global cancer. Saudi Arabia used oil money not to liberate its people but to fund a global network of religious extremism, madrasas teaching children that women are inferior, apostates deserve death, that freedom is sin, billions spent exporting this poison across Africa, Asia, the Middle East. And what did it create? Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, Taliban, ISIS, terrorist brands with better marketing reach than Coca-Cola, all rooted in Wahhabi doctrine, all fueled by Saudi petrodollars. Meanwhile, inside Saudi itself, no democracy, no freedom of speech, and only recently a slow cosmetic reform campaign under Mohammed bin Salman, whose most notable act was murdering and dismembering a journalist in a foreign embassy. Islam is supposed to be the perfection of justice. Saudi Islam delivered a bone saw. Now, Afghanistan. The Taliban promised pure Islam. They came, they banned music, they shut girls out of schools, they executed dissenters in stadiums, twice, not once, because after being thrown out in 2001, they clawed their way back in 2021, fresh from the caves, fresh from Pakistan's madrasas, waving the banner of Islamic Emirate. What has this produced? Half the population, women, barred from education, work and freedom. An economy in collapse, famine-level hunger. Entire villages reduced to begging because the mullahs know how to quote hadith, but not how to balance a budget. Afghanistan is a graveyard not just of empires, but of Islam as government. Let's not forget Pakistan. Created in 1947 as an Islamic homeland, Pakistan has been in a perpetual crisis since birth. The army runs the show, clerics whisper in its ear, and politicians sell piety like fast food. Blasphemy laws are used to lynch Christians, Ahmadis, Hindus, and even Muslims who dare to question clerics. Journalists vanish, women who protest are smeared as Western agents, and while elites steal billions, the people queue for bread. In a country armed with nuclear weapons, Islam as government has delivered little more than coups, corruption, and the occasional suicide bomber. Then there's Sudan, once proudly announcing itself as an Islamic state under Sharia. What did that deliver? Civil wars, genocide in Darfur, a dictatorship that collapsed into rubble, leaving the people in perpetual chaos. Sudan is not unique. It is simply another footnote in Islam's modern record, rule by God, collapse guaranteed. Let's swing to Morocco, where the monarchy clings to divine legitimacy. The king is not just a politician, he is the commander of the faithful. Hospitals collapse, youth unemployment skyrockets, billions are wasted on stadiums for the World Cup. Protesters are arrested, 21 youths in Casablanca, Najat Anouar detained for protecting children, dozens more across Rabat and Agadir. What's the shield the regime uses? Islam. Criticize the monarchy, you criticize God. Convenient, isn't it? Wrap yourself in religion, and you never have to answer for your failures. Or take Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood once rose to power, promising to deliver a government rooted in Islam. Within 1 year they collapsed under their own incompetence. They couldn't fix the economy, couldn't unite the country, couldn't govern. Their only strength was quoting scripture. The people threw them out, the army rolled back in, and Egypt remains stuck under authoritarianism. But the Brotherhood still lingers in the margins, still insisting that Islam can solve what it already failed. The story repeats everywhere. Somalia, decades of Islamist militias, warlords waving Qur'ans, famine in the streets. Nigeria, Boko Haram, bombing schools, killing children, burning villages, all in the name of Islam. ISIS in Iraq and Syria, declaring a caliphate, enslaving women, crucifying minorities, looting oil wells, collapsing in blood and rubble within years. These are not accidents, they are not aberrations. They are the inevitable result of trying to turn a 7th century religious code into a 21st century government system. Look at the common threads. Where Islam is state, women suffer most. From Tehran to Kabul, women are beaten, veiled, silenced, erased. A religion that promised paradise ends up turning half its population into prisoners. Where Islam is law, minorities vanish. Jews fled, Christians flee, Ahmadis, Yazidis, Baha'is, persecuted, executed, wiped out. Where Islam is politics, economies fail, because sermons don't build industries, clerics don't create jobs, hadiths don't feed children. Where Islam is government, repression thrives, blasphemy laws, apostasy laws, censorship, arrests, executions, fear, always fear. Tell me, is this the perfect system its apologists claim? Or is it a machine designed to break societies while pretending to save them? Apologists will say, but look at Malaysia, look at Indonesia. As if two imperfect, semi-secular economies negate the disasters everywhere else. Even in those nations, religious conservatism gnaws at freedoms, minorities face persecution, and women still battle centuries of patriarchal laws. The truth is simpler. Islam is a personal faith. People can keep their prayers. Islam is a government. Catastrophe. Every single time. Because the logic is rotten at the root. If you say law comes from God, who interprets God? Men in robes, men with guns, men with power. And once those men declare themselves divine mouthpieces, who can question them? Criticize the ruler, and you're insulting God. Demand justice, and you're accused of heresy. Protest, and you're branded an apostate. This is why Islamic governments cannot evolve, cannot adapt, cannot self-correct. They are built on infallibility, and infallibility is the enemy of progress. Look at the scoreboard. Iran, failed. Saudi Arabia, repressive, murderous. Afghanistan, medieval collapse. Pakistan, corruption and extremism. Sudan, genocidal implosion. Somalia, endless war. Morocco, repression behind holy titles. Egypt, Islamist rule collapsed in a year. ISIS, brutal, short-lived, catastrophic. Every experiment ends the same way, with blood, with poverty, with exile, with rage. So let's stop pretending. Islam is not the answer. Islam as governance is the problem. The modern age has tested it again and again, in country after country, and the results are in. It fails. The youth know it. They may not say it out loud, because to speak these words openly is to risk prison, flogging, even death. But they live it. They see it. They feel it in every collapsed hospital, every banned song, every censored book, every protest crushed. This is why the rulers are terrified of Generation Z. From Morocco to Iran to Pakistan, the young do not worship them. They do not believe the myth. They know the robe is empty. They know the commander of the faithful commands nothing but police vans. They know the caliphate was a death cult. They know the mullahs are frauds. Islam has failed as government. Islam has failed as law. Islam has failed as politics. The evidence is written in graves, in poverty, in hunger, in exile. The only question left is, how much longer will people allow this failure to strangle their lives? Because once the young stop fearing the holy words, once they start saying aloud what they already whisper in private, the curtain falls, and no amount of sermons or blasphemy laws will hold it up again. Islamic law promised justice. It delivered repression. Islamic institutions promised dignity. It delivered humiliation. Islamic preachers promised paradise. They delivered prisons. The verdict is in. Islamic politics is not the answer. Islam as a governing system is a failure. Not right, not left, just real.
Youth-led demonstrators have fought police in some of Morocco's largest anti-government protests in years. Hundreds turned out in several cities demanding public health and education reforms. Several people were arrested. Hamza Mohammed reports.
Unhappy and frustrated with their government, young Moroccans took to the streets of at least 11 cities across the country. Their anger is driven by years of neglect in public services. They are demanding urgent reforms in the education and health sectors. Earlier this month, 8 pregnant women died at a public hospital in Agadir, leading to a nationwide outrage.
Today we came out to defend and demand the rights of this girl, my daughter. Our time has passed without any improvement. As you can see, the oppressive police are here today, and their solution to solving the problem is to beat and arrest protesters.
The protests are organized by a leaderless, social media-driven movement known as Gen Z 212. But security forces are cracking down. Rights groups say police have arrested nearly 200 protesters since Saturday.
There
was systematic violence against a group of young people who were demonstrating peacefully. Security forces responded violently, and there were numerous arrests. We condemned these arrests and deemed it unacceptable to take a security-oriented approach to the social demands of a group of young people.
Morocco is spending billions to host the Africa Cup of Nations next year and co-hosting the FIFA World Cup in 2030. 3 new stadiums are being built. Half a dozen more are being renovated. The government says it's also investing in hospitals, rejecting accusations of misplaced priorities. But the World Health Organization says Morocco has fewer than 8 doctors per 10,000 people, far below the recommended 25. Morocco's leaders are betting on new stadiums to shine on the world stage. But at home, the voices of a restless generation are getting louder. Hamza Mohammed, Al Jazeera.
Well, this is not the first time young people have risen up demanding change. Here's a look at other movements. Earlier this month, young protesters forced Nepal's government to lift a social media ban and saw the Prime Minister resign after mass demonstrations triggered by anger at corruption. Kenya's Gen Z mobilized online and in the streets last year, pushing the government to withdraw a controversial tax bill after weeks of protests. And university campuses in the US saw huge numbers of student-led protests after Israel's war on Gaza began, demanding divestment and facing heavy police crackdowns. Joining us is Safa Karawi. She's the editor-in-chief of Morocco World News. Joins us now from Rabat. Good to have you with us. So Morocco's long had challenges, shall we say, when it comes to public services. Why are we seeing the protests pick up now?
All right. I just want to correct something. Thank you very much for having me first. This is not the first time that youth are taken to the street. They have been joining mass protests that have been happening like frequently in Morocco. Like a lot of cities across Morocco are witnessing protests aside from what happened during this weekend. As for the protests that took place this weekend, of course, they are, led by youth and Gen Z, as like everyone are describing it as we are. I think because like if you're calling someone like many times and that person is not really answering your phone calls, what does that mean? That person is not really interested. So basically, what we're seeing here is that like people are like losing trust from the government. They are losing trust like broadly because their demands are not really answered. Technically, the youth-led demonstrations are like extended or an extension to the protests that have been taking part in Morocco across the country. We've seen like protests just recently in Agadir, following the scandal that happened following the death of several pregnant women following giving birth. So basically, this is an extension to the protests that are taking place because believe it or
If I
not,
could jump in,
yeah.
who is leading this? Like some names have been mentioned, like Gen Z 12, Morocco Youth Voices, that they've been calling for people to be mobilized. Is there? I mean, this is different from union-led protests, political parties' protests. Is it clear who is the leader here?
Technically, there are a few like NGOs or let's say movements that are leading the protests, and you've named a few: the Youth Voice of Moroccan Youth and the Moroccan Movement of Youth, as well as Gen Z 212. So there are like different movements that are like taking the lead. They are like taking the initiative and calling people via social media. They are using like social media mainly as like a powerful tool to ask people to engage in similar protests.
Do we know who
So
these groups are? I mean,
whatever.
do they exist beyond social media chat
um
groups?
Not really. They've been like more alive, or they're taking, strong momentum and presence on social media. Technically, whoever is leading, honestly speaking, this movement or whatever, like the demonstrations are coming from, it's for one purpose. They are joining the chorus, the growing demands like from many citizens that like people deserve to live in dignity. And that's the overall message from any protest that is taking place in Morocco. They only want like simple demands, which are like equipped hospitals, access to free healthcare, good education, quality education, amid a lot of challenges that have been well evidenced and well documented in several reports, even government reports, if I might say, that really documented challenges that are persistent, that are like affecting many people. Beyond the urban areas. If you go to
Given
rural
that,
areas, there are
Safa,
like
given what you're
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
do you see a scenario in which the demands escalate beyond simply reform in education, reform in healthcare, and become
Definitely.
broader political
Um,
reform demands?
let's be honest. If there is no upcoming dialogue and engaging youth in a real-time dialogue and a real dialogue between government and the society, there might be like a large-scale protest than that. I even like can openly describe this as a large-scale protest due to the arrest that took place. So basically, yes, I think there might be like a more large scale protest if like a concrete dialogue between the society and government are like taking place on the ground.
Thank you so much. Good to talk to you, Safa Kasraoui, the
Thank
editor-in-chief
you.
of Morocco World News.